I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, anyone's time to speak tonight?
Connie Engel.
As many of you, some of you know, 2 weeks ago, the village, and some of you know, 2 weeks ago, the village was kind enough to host the final giving of the Engel Award of Excellence for the outstanding volunteer citizen in this community. And as many of you know, that started in the year 2000. And I would like to thank the mayor and the others of you on the board. I'd like to thank the police officers that provided the safety on the block and of the group that was there. And, especially thank you for giving me that beautiful honorary citizen award that I sure didn't expect. Lifetime citizen for Hampshire.
Right.
It was that also was quite an honor. As you know, I wrote a book about all the folks that have received the awards through the years. And I've been surprised a little at how many Hampshire folks have commented on an interest in the history of this town.
Right.
So I'd really like to underline the interest in the history of Hampshire. Of course, we know there's the Hampshire Historical Society that is managing along for any support that could be given to that organization as the village board or others that are interested. I'd like to encourage that.
Thank you for all your great years of providing that award to the village citizens or township residents. I know it's always something that was looked forward to during Coon Creek, and unfortunately, due to the circumstances that we're in, we couldn't have it at Coon Creek. So I want to thank Mike Reed for filling in for me since I was under the weather 2 weeks ago. And you certainly deserve the Lifetime Honorary Citizenship Award.
Thank
For
you.
all the great things you've done since you started in 2000. So thank you for
God
what
was
you've
good. I
done.
didn't miss a year, and I didn't want to push my luck, you know.
And that book I read from cover to cover is fantastic.
Thank
I
you.
can't imagine how much time it took you to put that together. It's, I think, 100 pages, and it was great reading.
Well, I thought I'd have trouble filling 70, but it expanded. So
Right.
it's okay. Jeannie Mackey was a great help.
Good. Turned out great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All for this evening.
That's all. All right. Then we should have meeting minutes from August 6th, 2020. For all that were here. Changes? I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We have Village Administrator Hedges with his newly repaired left knee, ready to take over, run with the next few items on the agenda. All right.
For everybody.
What?
For
For
everybody.
what?
She served in the last meeting.
Everybody.
Everything concerned.
Because of the.
I thought that was just,
What?
I thought that was just if any trustee, any.
Hey, why don't we
was absent.
Has anyone talked to Mark lately?
Mark's not on board.
Oh, everybody's here.
No, I remember, I thought it was everything,
Oh.
because of the electronic attendance is what I thought.
Yes, I agree.
But I thought that it was only if a trustee or somebody was participating.
Yeah, since we're all here, I don't think we have to. I don't know, ask Mr. Schuster.
Counselor, does roll call vote suffice since everybody is in the room on the approval of minutes?
No volume.
Mark, you're
muted.
All that, Counselor, we're muted.
You're taking roll call votes,
Roll call?
correct?
Uh,
Trustees being present, it's a question of video conferencing for the meeting.
Oh, okay.
We've done this video conference. Okay. All right, then I will ask a roll call vote on the approval of the minute.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Fine. Aye. Mr. Coe.
Present.
Mr. Gajeki.
Abstain.
Mr. Reed.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Motion passed for.
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I'd like to introduce Dan Olson and Chris Natz from the Crown Community Development Group to discuss their preliminary plans for the homestead development in Hampshire. Dan?
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. All right, well, good to see all of you virtually. I'm coming to you from the comfort of my living room or my dining room, and I'm going to apologize in advance if we have any distractions of the feline nature or otherwise. So hopefully that's not going to happen. We're with me tonight. Obviously, I'm Dan Olson with Crown Community Development. I oversee the engineering and construction for Crown. With me tonight is Chris Natz. He oversees the sales and marketing for Crown, and also Rich Olson, who is a principal at Gary Weber Associates, who are doing our land planning for the sites. We're very excited to present to you tonight a revised land plan for our Oakstead subdivision out east of town, northeast of town. But I thought before we do that, I thought it'd be good to go over a little bit of history, since the majority of the board members were not on the board in 2005. And I'm not quite sure how much everybody knows about the project and what happened, back in those days. So in 2005, Oakstead was annexed along with Prairie Ridge and our land at the high school. It was 511 acres at the time. It was preliminary platted and approved for preliminary plat of 811 homes. 220 of those 811 homes were townhomes. The lot size ranged from 8,000 square feet to 15,000 square feet, and they were between 65 feet wide and 100 feet wide. 256 acres of the site is open space, which equates to about 50% of the entire site. And that's the basic. So a few changes have occurred since 2005. As most of you know, in 2017, we were approached by the Burnage family along Big Timber Road, and they had asked if we'd be interested in selling them 10 acres of our project. Rich, if you could pull up the preliminary plat, the current preliminary plat, appreciate it. But
I do have that. Can you hear me?
I can't. Yes. Okay. I
Yeah,
don't.
I've got it on my screen. I don't know if it's shared or not.
Okay. All right.
No.
It's not being shared right now that I can see. So see if you can get that up. But I think most of you know where it's at. It's obviously, we had 3 access points onto Big Timber Road, and the middle access point really didn't need, and it's an expensive access point to build. So we agreed to sell that 10 acres to the Burnage family for agricultural purposes. And a condition of that sale was that they de-annex, the property be de-annexed from the village, and the village agreed to do so. So that brought us down by 10 acres. In 2018, we were approached by the Wiesman family up in the northwest corner of the project and asked if we'd be interested in selling buying 60 acres of their property up there, which we had originally had interest when we first purchased the parcels out there. We were interested in buying that parcel, but they weren't interested in selling because they wanted to keep it in egg. So we bought a sliver of their parcel just to get access to Big Timber Road, and then but it was problematic because it created some the intersection, with Lakewood, it wasn't a good flow of traffic getting into the subdivision. It created kind of an F curve. So we saw this as an opportunity to make that access better. It also gave us more frontage on both Route 20 and Big Timber Road. So we agreed to purchase that, and we did in 2018. So those are the two major changes. That brought us up a net 50 acres, roughly, from where we were in 2005 of land that we own. The only thing that hasn't changed out there is the number of residents living, within the community, and it was 0 then, it's 0 now. And that's because, obviously, numerous reasons, most importantly, the crash of 2008 and the fact that, residential has not come back in Illinois like the rest of the country has. And then, of course, we have the pandemic. So Chris will talk a little bit more about that. So here we are today, 15 years later, and two global crises later. And the world has changed, as we all know, but so has the market. And that's really what this is about today. What we're asking the board to consider, or we'll be asking the board to consider eventually, is obviously the annexation of the annexation, zoning, and preliminary platting of the Weisman parcel. But then also we're asking the board to consider revising the preliminary plat to address to make it more marketable, basically, because again, things have changed certainly in our industry. So the most important thing the only thing we're really looking for tonight from the board is feedback, because we're on a very aggressive agenda here, and Chris will explain why. But we need to get going on preliminary engineering and preliminary platting now. And before we do so, we want to make sure we've got a plan that this board feels comfortable with, to make sure that we don't have a lot of changes later on down the road, but also to make sure we're going in the right direction here. So we're hoping we get a lot of feedback tonight, but certainly, if questions arise through the week or in the next, the coming weeks, please send us, any questions you may have, and we'll certainly address questions or concerns, and we'll address them as best we can. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Chris to discuss, what kind of product we're thinking about here in the market, and to share some exciting news from the school district. So, Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. As Dan had mentioned, we're just grateful to be with you this evening. Talk about great potential for this community.
Chris, this is Jay. Whoever shared their screen, you guys put up some sort of sunset, and we can't see you guys. Yeah,
Rich, the plans aren't up right now.
We have the plans up. If we just take down whoever shared the desktop on the screen so we can see you guys.
So you can just unshare. There you go. Great.
Thank you. So we do have the slides here, so we'll post them as you tell us which one you want. Right now we have just the northern section of Chris.
Okay. Are we ready to go?
Go ahead.
All right, good. Okay. So yeah, we're just grateful to be with you all this evening. And as Dan had mentioned, we're pleased to share with you that we're in the process of finalizing an agreement with the school district, who is going to become a part of the community. As you can see, they're in the at the entrance off of Big Timber, which is going to be a phenomenal location. We've had a great relationship with the school district and worked hard to find an ideal location for them within the community. And wow, what a fabulous addition it's going to be, not only for the village of Hampshire, but for Oakstead, for Crown, to have them in this community. So we're excited. Along with that, as Dan intimated, they are on a pretty aggressive schedule. I'm certainly not here to speak on their behalf, but I do know that they would like to move through the process fairly quickly. And so that's also, part and parcel as to why we're with you this evening, so that we can share our updated plan as we, move forward with the school district in tandem. Rich Olson, who's with us from our land planner from Gary Webber Associates, is going to walk you through the plan in a little bit more detail here shortly. But I just wanted to provide a little more, a few comments before he does that. Specifically, really, we really view, and you probably do as well. We view Oakstead as sort of a gateway to Hampshire. It's just got phenomenal, as you all know, phenomenal proximity to Route 47 and I-90. Can literally be there within just a few minutes. So it's just an excellent opportunity. We're looking forward to now with the addition of the school and in anticipation of an updated plan to being able to unlock the development of this community and sort of sort of open up that gateway to the village, if you will. We anticipate our vision is as the school gets underway, our vision is to begin developing the community and the neighborhoods immediately surrounding the school with a mix of single-family detached homes and, as you'll see on the plan there, some duplexes in those first phases. We would anticipate, obviously we will be, working with new home builders in the Chicagoland area to partner in the community. We would anticipate, based on our market research and what's currently happening in the area, average home sizes to be anywhere from 2,200 to over 3,000 square feet. Of course, these are projections, but based on what we're seeing, in the current market, with home prices averaging in the mid 300s, we obviously can speak with some good knowledge on the topic, and that we're in Prairie Ridge. We have 2 partner builders in Prairie Ridge right now, and we're seeing homes ranging anywhere from upper 200s to even we've had just over 400,000. So that median kind of putting us in the average sales price in the 300s. The plan that that Rich is gonna walk you through is an updated plan. You'll see it's got a lot of great features, and with Dan said, combined with the open space, it's going to be quite an attractive community. So with that, I'm going to pass the baton here to Rich, and he's going to walk you through the plan in a little bit more detail.
Great, thanks, Chris. Again, my name is Rich Olson. I'm with Gary R. Webber Associates. We're a landscape architecture land planning firm out of Wheaton, Illinois. First of all, I just obviously want to thank you for this opportunity to come before you. It's trying times, and to be able to progress these plans and get feedback in this manner, it's great to be here, and thank you for the opportunity. What I thought I'd do is just kind of, I thought I'd briefly just walk you through the plan from a big picture standpoint. I know you've got a couple of exhibits in front of you. I'm going to start with the blow up exhibit that shows the northern section of the site that's along Big Timber. So if you kind of gravitate toward that exhibit, I'll talk through that one first. I was sort of brought on at the start to sort of look at this newly added piece, and one of the reasons why they brought me on is because I do work for many of the large home builders in the Chicagoland area, and have extensive experience on what they're looking for, the size of lots, and the types of products that they want to see. And so I was able to, be able to share that information with them and help them prepare a plan before you tonight. Just starting off, basically what we generally do from a starting standpoint, we always look at existing conditions and planning factors. And this site has some planning factors that definitely guide us in what we're doing here. It has really good access from a vehicular standpoint both off of Big Timber and off of Route 20. It's essentially a cornfield or a farming field that does have some rolling topography and some trees. And we're looking to preserve those trees. If you look in the center of the site, you'll kind of see that where we have our major park toward the center, and there's an existing woodland area in that site, and there's some mature oak trees. It's just a beautiful little location, and we're going to use that as a feature for the site itself. Just walking down from Big Timber, just to give you a glance at what we're doing here, or proposing for you, is essentially it's a very simple concept. We've got a spine road that comes off of Big Timber. We're proposing a 10-acre school site that's located right off the entrance area there. And across the street, we have a single-family pod. And you'll see that theme pretty much throughout the site. The spine road, as we call it, essentially provides us with a guiding pedestrian and vehicular access with pods off to either side of that spine road. One of the things we've also done is provided for open space parks within each one of those individual pods that you'll see. And that's intended to break up the spaces in the individual pods. And of course, those people also have the ability to go out to the spine road and access that to get down to the larger, more common open spaces that you see throughout the plan. We are proposing a couple different product types. We're proposing 210 single-family homes of 2 different sizes, as well as a small pod of multifamily duplex, about 50 units there. And the spine roads themselves will certainly be heavily landscaped and serve as a nice amenity for people to use to go up and down those areas. We also will have 2 major entry features that we'll be developing on the site, as well as buffering along the major roads and up against the school site as well, and along Big Timber Road. Off of Big Timber, we are proposing 2 water features for detention, and that also serve as a really nice area for an entrance to the site at that point. There's another exhibit that you have that I just want to point your attention to, which is the larger exhibit.
Hey, Rich, before you move on to that one, I just want to mention to the board members that on both exhibits, you can see a dashed red line. It's lighter, so that we made it light so that you can see the lot layout and whatnot. But that is the demarcation for the Weisman parcel. Okay, so everything north and west of that line is unannexed property, unzoned, obviously unplanted. Everything outside of that dashed red line is currently within the village and is currently platted per the old plat, not this one, but and certainly zoned. So just want to make it clear to everybody so that you can see where the annexation needs to occur, which includes the school site. So hence the urgency for the annexation. So sorry, Rich.
No problem at all. No problem at all. So so they asked me to come up with a concept for this northern section, which then what we did is we started to look at the bigger picture as well, because what we thought made a lot of sense is to not only come up with a direction for this northern piece that's going to be annexed with the school site, but how we can shape the rest of the project. And most of you are very familiar with the rest of the site. And essentially what we did, if you look at that page, which shows a larger area with many different pods on it, it's very similar to what you've seen in the past. The areas of development haven't really changed much. What we did do is we massaged them a little bit, updated them for current product types, and really looked at the design of them a little bit, in that, again, that spine road continues down through and meanders through the site, and it sort of helps to, again, define those residential rooms or pods, as you will, as you go down through. And the other thing that's nice is each one of these pods, again, we've tried to not only create green spaces within those pods, but they also back up to the open space area. So there's a lot of nice premium homes that they're going to be designed throughout the community itself. And then the idea again is those larger or those smaller parks will then serve as smaller areas that then will be a precursor to getting onto the spine road and going to the larger open space areas. I already talked about the large open space park in the northern section. We have another one that's that's kind of half that size to the far south. If you follow all the way down to the south, where again, we've got one of the existing homesteads also has some really nice trees around it, which creates a really nice opportunity for us to preserve trees and create a really nice large open space park to the south. And then in the center of the site, again, we've preserved a green space park in one of the pods that's much larger than the rest of them. So I think we've got a really nice blend of roadway systems that serve as pathways to pods. We've got lots of open space, lots of preservation. And I know that if when I was brought on, and if you look at the Crown developments, it's pretty obvious. I mean, they really look at high quality designs for their developments, and it's really great to be part of this team. And largely because what they're doing is they're developing sites, and then they're going to attract developers to come in and then build homes on it. So they really take great care in creating a really nice environment. And I hope you guys can appreciate what they're trying to accomplish here. And obviously, this southern section that you see here, without going into great detail, is a mix of residential type units ranging from single family to multifamily to active adult style housing developments. And so it's really a nice mix of housing that will really create a really strong development that will be successful. With that, I think I'll turn it back over to Chris, maybe to talk a little bit more if there's any questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Well, I just want to, in the interest of transparency, and I just want to talk a little bit about schedule. So if, assuming that the board, is likes the plan and gives us a clear direction that, this is something that can be approved eventually, we need to get moving very quickly, as I mentioned before. And I just, that's relative, right? So what we're looking at, we're hoping for, and I know it's a tall order, and it would mean a lot of work for both ourselves and both Brad and Mark, but we'd like to get this annexed by the end of the year, and that's not our time frame. That is the time frame that the school district has expressed to us, and we think it can be done. And I just want to be clear on what we're hoping to accomplish. It's a lot, we understand, in a very short period of time. So, sorry, Chris.
No, thank you. I'd like to just open the floor to the board. Please, if you questions, comments, feedback, we welcome it all.
Mr. Robinson.
A couple, can you explain the difference to me? This is just my lack of knowledge. The difference between just a basic single family home and an active adult single family home?
Sure. By active adult, I should say this would be a community that would for example, in the section marked S, those would be single family homes. That lot side, the size of that home site, those lots would be conducive to a builder who wants to build ranches in there. So this is gonna, whether it's age restricted, it's really not age restricted community. So it would just be homes in a neighborhood within Oakstead that would appeal to people who want to live in ranches. Similarly, with the townhomes in the adjacent neighborhood R.
And we should be clear, Chris, we're not proposing age restricted in that area, but more it's age targeted, right? As you mentioned, just making the product that that type of buyer would be interested in.
Right.
Thank you. One more from me. I really like the plan. Great job on this. I was just curious about the duplex area. Every other pod has a park space in it, except for the duplex area. Can you walk me through the thinking of why not to include one in there?
Yeah, it's a small number of homes. There'll be a little bit of open space along the boulevard there, as you can see, and currently it's the only neighborhood of duplexes in the community, and with that sort of central park, I'll call it, in B. And the amount of open space in this general area, it's going to feel very lush and green, especially with those established trees, that are behind neighborhood E.
And I think there's pretty good access. Granted, it is across the Spine Road, but there is very good access, obviously, to that larger park. It's more of a regional type park. So it's within close proximity to those neighborhoods, even though there's not an actual park within those two neighborhoods.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. You mentioned the one already, so you must have been looking at my notes about timetable. We have an issue with parking lot times in some of our other developments. That probably wasn't thought out well at this stage. Are you guys figuring that we do parking on one side of the street, or have your fire hydrants on one side of the street? Are these questions that we're free or too soon, or is that because one of the concerns that I have, based on the Lakewood subdivision across the street and some of our other places, I mean, is especially like in these duplex situations, we build duplex homes or townhomes with a single car garage and no basement, and single car driveways, we put two cars over, but the only way you put two cars on a driveway is if you park over the sidewalk, which creates a problem or a traffic enforcement problem for our police. So I'm just trying to ask you to be cognizant of this as we lay this out, or ask if that's something you guys already thought of.
So a bit more engineering related, we're certainly going to be working with the village engineer to make sure that, as far, where's the proper location for the water, and the hydrants and the sanitary sewer, and then also we'll certainly look at that. I tell you, the roads that we're proposing here within the neighborhoods are 28 foot back to back. It's the same width of roads that we have in the other parts of Prairie Ridge that we've already developed. That's our intention, but we're certainly going to work with EEI and make sure that we address, it's been 15 years, right? So engineering has changed a bit even in that 15 years. So we'll work with Brad and his team and make sure that we address any issues that they may have on the engineering side of things. And that's relative to parking too, by the way. So it's a great comment, by the way, and a great point, and we'll make sure we address it.
As far as the park goes, parks in general, are those going to be deeded to the village, or are they deeded to the park district, or are you envisioning like an HOA type situation where they would maintain their own parks?
So I think we're open to both. When we first got annexed in 2005, there's actually an exhibit in our annexation agreement which identifies who will ultimately take ownership of which parks. And if I recall, there was four or five regional parks that the annexation agreement required us to offer to the village. If the village chose not to take it, we were required to offer it to the park district, and then if as the fallback, obviously would be the HOA. So that was more of the larger parks. I would say, we're open to anything. The original plan and the original agreement with the smaller pocket parks here were that they would all be turned over to the HOA and be operated and maintained by the HOA. So we like public parks, right? We like, we think municipalities do a really good job, and park districts do a really good job in maintaining those parks. When we're in control of the parks, when we're in control of the HOA, we do a very good job of it. Unfortunately, we can't control how future HOAs, we're involved with projects for a long time, right? We're interested, we're property managers, up until a certain number of occupancies, but we're open to either, I guess. So if the village has a desire there, we can certainly discuss that.
And as far as the favorite, as far as like market questions, you mentioned market is dictating a lot of the changes. What kind of, again, this may be too soon, what kind of asks are you coming or willing to prepare to come to the village for as far as setback changes or side yard changes? Is this something where you're going to be houses right on top of each other?
Yeah, so great question. Yeah, we'd be looking for the same, as far as the single family detached lots go, we'd be looking for the same setbacks, side yard, front yards, rear yards, and I believe the side yards, I know the side yards are 7.5 for single family detached. 25, we actually got an annexation agreement amendment to go from 30-foot front yards to 25, but you know, we can talk about that. I believe the backyards were 30 feet, if I recall correctly. So that would be the single family detached. I will say, and Rich and Chris can talk to this way better than I can, those active adult lots and those, you know, especially those, duplex lots, they typically have a different array of setbacks, right? So, you know, that would be our, there probably will be an ask as far as some modifications there. And Rich and Chris, please let me know if I'm speaking out of turns as far as the 7.5 foot setbacks on, I'm thinking particularly in the 60-foot lots. You guys know the product better than I do.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. And Rich just lost internet, so hopefully he'll be able to run it.
So we're going to wing it without the planner. We can do this.
Keep going. You're asking online.
Oh, sorry. Intersection, are you guys looking to do any intersection improvements on Big Timber Road for this? Or is it going to be like traffic signal or?
So there, as Brad knows and as Jay knows, I think most of you probably know, the state is planning, I think within the next year, to modify or improve the intersection of Big Timber Road and Route 20 and put some permanent signals in there. You know, we don't anticipate warrants would be met to put signals at any of our entrances off of Big Timber or off of Route 20. I think and Brad can speak to this better than I can, but I believe they're all, you know, certainly the northernmost entrances off Big Timber Route 20 will be too close to that signalized intersection at Big Timber and 20. So, and then down south, you know, near Allen's Corner down there, you know, that is, again, we don't think warrants will be met there. And I know there's not signals there right now, and I'm not sure what IDOT's plans are for signals at that location. Brad may know better than I do, but so answer your question, no, we don't anticipate doing any signals. The entrance off of Big Timber, the northernmost entrance off of Big Timber is actually has already been constructed and improved with access to our site as part of the Lakewood, and we did a cost sharing with them when they made those improvements 15 years ago. But the other, you know, IDOT's going to dictate, you know, what the requirements are for, you know, the access off their roads. So.
And Dan, if I might add, you know, IDOT certainly and KDOT, they're going to require turn lanes and channelization at a bare minimum. But certainly there are warrants that have to be met for traffic signals. And at first blush, I would agree that they're probably not warranted. And that's, you know, those are the guidelines that both the county and the state are certainly going to follow.
Thanks, Brad. And I should mention, I did have a conversation with KDOT on the our entrance across from Lakewood. So, and it pretty much confirmed that, yeah, we got to get an access permit because it's been so long, but there shouldn't be any improvements necessary there because turn lanes have already been constructed. We will have to do some striping, you know, at that one, but didn't really talk specifically about signalization. But I think Brad's right. I don't see signalization meeting warrants here, first of all.
I think it would warrant a traffic study at the least. The problem is with school not being in session, we're not going to get an accurate representation. But right now, during the preschool and post-school hours, that intersection is horrible and backed up. So if you have families off of Lakewood, you have additional traffic with a new school in that area, there's absolutely going to have to be some traffic improvements in that area.
So certainly IDOT will require a traffic study to get access off of Route 20, right? So that's going to happen. We're fortunate enough that the school district has hired the engineering firm that we use for our traffic studies. So, we'll certainly work with them on, what they see the needs of the school. We believe the school will go before us here. And then we'll enter into a recapture agreement with the school on the improvements that they construct. But it's good to have the same engineer, working both for their land or for their engineering, site engineering, that also does our traffic work. So we'll talk to them about the need for a traffic study there. If KDOT requires it, we'll certainly provide it. But we'll work with Brad and his team and also, the school and KDOT on that.
So with your timetable, you did say you were hoping for annexation by the end of the year for the paperwork side of the village. And you just made a comment that the school would probably be done. You do recapture agreements with them because your side of the development either wouldn't have been started or won't be done in the time frame that they're looking. So what is your estimate on completion of the project as designed here? What would be your best guess estimate that you would say this development is now done?
So Chris can answer that better than I can, but
yeah. So it's a large master plan community. It's of course always market driven, but we would anticipate if we can begin development within the next, in tandem with the school or shortly thereafter, we would project 100 to 100 plus units a year. So, this could be a multi-year community. We would love to see it be a couple hundred a year, and we'll make every effort to do that. It's really a team effort between the village and Crown and then the partner builders to maximize the opportunity in the community.
So I'm looking for partner builders. I'm kind of ignorant when it comes to development. Crown is the master plan developer. Bringing in individual builders or subsets of maybe 4 different buildings, however many it is, that you work with to build out this community. So 2 questions. One, have you identified and discussed with those builders and have commitments from them that they would want to build this? And 2, is your plan to release all of these A, B, C, E through the active adult at once, or is it have to have an area filled similar to what we have going on now before you'll open another area?
I'm not sure I heard the second question. I believe I heard the first.
So I'll repeat a little louder. Sorry. So first question, have you already identified the builders that you would be working with and have commitments from them that they would want to build in this community? And second, when you do start the construction, are you opening the build for the entire area, or are you going to phase it in similar to the development we have going on with Silverthorne and I forget the other builder?
Yes.
Right.
Thank you. I got it. So to your first question, have we identified the builders? At this point in the process, we typically in any of our communities would not have firm agreements with any builder, but I am in regular communication with all of the with most of the home builders in Chicago. Fortunately and unfortunately, I'm able to do that. What I mean by that is, fortunately, I know most of the home builders in Chicago based on my career and working with them. Unfortunately, the Chicago market is somewhat constrained in terms of supply of builders. There are only really a handful of builders in our market versus, for example, other parts of the country where a developer like Crown might be able to work with a dozen to 24 builders at any given time. In Chicago, it's maybe 4 to 6 builders at any given time. That said, because of that. I have strong relationships, and I know we're proposing a plan here that is very much in alignment with what they would like to, what they build. Home builders in Chicago would prefer, whenever possible, to this is in my experience, and also I should share with you that prior to my time with Crown, I worked for new home builders in Chicago. Most often their preference is to be able to buy home sites from a company like Crown, a developer like Crown. So we are more attractive in that sense, because then they don't typically wouldn't be able to develop a community of this scale in today's environment. So I feel very confident. Of course, I don't have a crystal ball, but I feel very, very confident sitting here today that this would be an excellent opportunity for some of the builders in Chicago.
And I could add to the second question, how much would we develop at a time? I'd say the Crown family and most developers actually, we're leery to put capital into the ground until we know the market's there. And preferably to have a letter of intent or something from a builder, which helps us sell it to you guys, because we can go in and show the product and get the final plating approved and all that stuff. But from a practical standpoint, engineering standpoint, as Brad knows, there's certain improvement. When you dig a detention facility, you need to use that material to build building pads, right? So you can build it one small little neighborhood at a time, but typically you need, and you can see that the detention facilities here, that material needs to go somewhere. So that most likely would be used to build neighborhoods A, possibly B and C and D. So I could see the majority of, when we decide to go, the majority of neighborhoods A, B, C, and D being built out, maybe even F and E being built out at one time. But I would not see going to beyond the floodplain or even into the active adult area unless there was a market there, because it's just too many lots and too much capital to spend. So the market can only absorb so much, right? So.
Yeah, if I might add, again, our vision would be initially, to Dan's point, I'll share sort of a hypothetical scenario, which would be, we would have a builder initially starting to build in neighborhood A on 70-foot wide home sites, and we would have simultaneously a builder doing single-family homes in neighborhood B on 60-foot wide home sites. And that's one of the reasons why we have the duplexes in this first section, is because momentum is critical in any community in Chicago. And when we start this, it's very important to start off with great momentum. So we'd have another opportunity for a builder to do another type of home style and design in neighborhood G. And that is how you move through a community faster. More permits, more homes sold and closed every year when we can offer multiple types of homes within a community. Builders are very sensitive to being in a community with another builder, and we focus on making sure that they're going to be successful so that they don't overlap and sort of step on each other's toes. And that's why it's critical that we have different types of home size widths and potential product offerings.
My only question is, how much of this entire project, if you're gonna begin it, will the infrastructure go in? Are you gonna run the sewer, water, and everything from end to end?
Yeah, and as Chris mentioned, it's the way I see this going, and I know Chris feels the same way because, as you just explained, I could see that entire north area, north of the floodplain, being developed at one time. Obviously, you start with mass grading, and then utilities go in, and then roads. So yeah, the intent there would be to put in all of the utilities in the area. Now, understood if the school district goes first, they're going to need their own utilities. There's a reason we located the school site where we did, and that's because it's close to utilities. There's sewer and water actually at the site across from the entrance to Lakewood. Again, the access is there, so it just made sense. It saves them money because they already have an access. They don't have to make improvements on Big Timber, and the sewer and water is right there. It saves them, infrastructure cost by putting that in first. So they would put that in, and then presumably when we're ready, we'd come in and develop the rest of the site with the infrastructure. The rest of that area, I should say.
So the only question I have is, I just making sure I'm reading this correctly. Was the original approved plan from 2005, 571 lots? And now we're looking at 991. Am I reading that correctly, or am I not reading that?
So the original plan, and actually what's currently entitled, it was 811 lots. But 228 of those were townhomes, just to differentiate. And then obviously the difference is 583 single family detached lots of different size.
So how many lots are you adding?
So
160, right, Rich?
Yeah, definitely. The new plan adds 160 lots over the previous plan. It's a little bit muddied because this whole entire piece to the north is an additional 134 acres. And so essentially you're going to add based off of that. And that site's 260 units, but we also took away a small section of the old plan as well. So there's a net of 160 units because of the 134 acres.
And my last question is you mentioned that you're looking to keep all these trees. Are you guys going to do a tree survey and then honor the ordinance of planting trees if you take down trees and that kind of thing? Or is that something you're going to have up for discussion?
So we do have a tree survey already. We've had it since we first bought the property. If I recall, the annexation is pretty clear on, as far as mitigation of the trees, that we have to remove. The plan actually does a pretty good job of salvaging trees, right? And I'll have to read the agreement again, but we'd look to continue with that agreement as far as trees goes. But I would like to say, and Rich can attest, there is a lot of trees we'll be planting here. And if you look at the berms going down those spine roads, that's all, we'd like consideration for the number of trees we're planting there, and we can give an estimate of what that would be as we get to the engineering. But in my view, it'll far outweigh any trees that we may need to remove for either roadways or even lots when we do the development here. But
sure, and I can also add to that too. I mean, we've identified key areas, and if you go out to the site, you'll see there's some very, very attractive oak tree areas that we definitely would not want to touch. In fact, they're going to be cornerstones to this site. And as I'd mentioned in the previous one in the south, we have another area of trees that we're preserving in that section. And of course, there's going to be some trees that are going to be less than desirable that we're going to save. And we might take a few down, but this development is going to generate thousands of trees that will be replanted.
If you look at the feature park Rich has up north, that's a huge tree grove area. And when we got our Army Corps permit years ago, that was a priority for both the Corps, but also for us, because Crown values trees. It adds value to the lots, right? But also that park all the way to the south, next to neighborhood M. Originally we had that lotted out, but we revised it because that's the old homestead, and there's some nice mature oaks on that homestead as well. So we made it into a park. That's what we do as Crown. We've in our Thornwood development in South Elgin, and I use Thornwood as an example a lot, and I apologize, but we actually had a tree area there where we had to put a road in, and we actually wound the road around these beautiful oak trees, and they were in the parkway. Unfortunately, a number of them died because they're too close to the road, so lesson learned. But we do our best to mitigate removal, particularly of the prime species, the oaks, the hardwoods, and we do our best to mitigate that and make them into a feature like Rich did here.
While we're looking at that section of the plan, I'd like to focus your attention on L, M, N, that the spine road, as it moves in between those neighborhoods, has been slightly repositioned. And this is sort of just an updated, fresh perspective on the community. And if you look closely, you'll see it's much more attractive. The street layout is much more attractive. It's more sensible. So sometimes the benefit of time gives us the opportunity to go back and with a new vision. And this is just, it's phenomenal, the improvements that we've made to the plan, and with consideration to trees and open space areas, as we've just mentioned.
And I was involved with the first plan, so I won't take that personally, Chris, but I agree. And
Not intended.
is absolutely way better, and that's credit to Rich and his team. So it's from an engineering standpoint, from a road standpoint, but mostly from just the features, the parks, everything. It's just, I love this plan.
Yeah, and they really emphasized when I got involved that they really wanted to preserve trees. And then if you look at the old plan versus the new plan, we created a lot more lots that back up to open space. So there's just a lot of open space to this plan around it, with natural areas and areas that we can't develop, but we use those as spaces that we could back up to and create premium lots. So some of the lots will obviously appear bigger because they're going to be backing up to preserved open spaces on the plan.
So that's a very long answer to a very short question, but hopefully we answered the question.
Ms. Klein?
When you start full swing with this development, are you going to stop releasing lots in Prairie Ridge?
No. We have every intention of simultaneously continuing with the two communities. They both have different attributes and different features. As I mentioned earlier, the overwhelmingly positive feature about this community is, and I'm going to continue to sort of use this expression, this is really a gateway to your village. And customers and builders who want to build homes in this community will see this as such. They will find it very appealing to have proximity to Route 47 and to 90. And I think, and the addition of the school is a wonderful addition and amenity, so to speak, in the community. I certainly hope, as you probably do as well, that this will unlock and attract a lot more opportunities for the village, and hence the residents of the village that will be in this community and your other communities.
I guess that was one of my concerns. I'm glad you asked the question. Is that how many homes are I don't want to say budgeted, but planned for Prairie Ridge? It's like
Prairie Ridge is huge, right? And Prairie Ridge is huge. We had hoped that it would have been developed by now. I think it was, and I should know this off the top of my head, 1,200 homes over there. I mean, it's a lot, right? But that was always a long-term play, and it's, as Chris mentioned, we believe those are different buyers over there. So there was always a risk of one neighborhood cannibalizing another community, but we certainly think they're far enough away from each other. And then the attributes of each, one being close to downtown, that attracts one buyer, and then another commuter, presumed type buyer would be more interested in the access to I-90. But that Prairie Ridge, it's been 15 years, right? But we really just got started in the last few years, on Prairie Ridge because of the crash. But it's doing pretty well right now. But I want to be clear, Prairie Ridge, because of the number of lots there, will take a long time to build out. And if you look at Prairie Ridge, it's broken up into, it can almost be 4 different developments because of the way it's separated by Harmony Road and Kelly Road, and could be developed as different different units, and maybe probably should have, you know, back in those days, because it is so huge. But we're in it for the long run. I mean, we've been here 15 years. We're not going anywhere. We're gonna continue to go. And here we are asking for annexing more property when we already have so much property in the village. But we think it just makes sense, and will, you know, growth spurs growth, right? So as you guys have seen, right? So we hope that, you know, if something starts going here, maybe that helps Prairie Ridge for those buyers.
And I would add that it's important to recognize the trends in housing. This is a very opportune time to be revisiting Oakstead. If you look at the permit activity that you're seeing in Prairie Ridge right now, you will be able to tell from your internal permit records the increase in absorption that we're seeing there. As I said, it's really important to recognize the trends and respond to them and react to them. Housing is cyclical, but right now housing is doing quite well. You know, it's relatively speaking in Chicago, it's not like other parts of the country, but we have a great location here and a great opportunity to sort of capitalize on and offer a wonderful community of homes at this time.
And the trend,
I can tell you, I can jump in a little bit from our firm. You know, like I said before, works for most of the large home builders, and we're doing well, and we're continually adding more staff, and they're seeing numbers in the near future. Now, going out into the long-term future, who knows? But the near-term future, they're seeing numbers that go back a long time now for positive signs, and they're continually seeing more and more homes being sold. So just from a pure design side, and that's where I'm at, which is on the front end of this, we're seeing activity across the board. I've got projects as far north as Wisconsin, as far south Indiana, all from the same Chicagoland home builders right now.
And you know, so Chris mentioned, you know, following the trends. Well, you know, and this may sound bad, but the trend now is COVID, right? So it was for a long time where the millennials wanted to go into the urban centers, and did. But now they're finally at the point. They're late to the game, right? You know, because of the market and, you know, getting jobs and, you know, debt, college debt and whatnot. But they're marrying later, and they're having children now, so they are moving out. They were starting to move out to the suburbs before COVID, but now they're flocking out to the suburbs and the farther areas. They want to get away from the urban centers because of COVID and other issues. And I think that bodes very well for Hampshire. And I think, you know, you're seeing it. We're seeing it in Hampshire right now in our community. So.
Zach, I have two questions for us, not for them. I promise they're quick. You probably have these answers. One, how long do annexation agreements last with a developer if the project wasn't started? Is there an end date? Because the original, if like this development didn't start, the original annexation agreement was in 2005. Is there a termination date of that annexation agreement if the project does not start?
Yeah, there is, and Mark can probably answer this better than I can, but it's 20 years, right? You know, and that's what that one is. So we will need to come back. We're not going to be done, right? We will need to come back before the village and ask for an extension of that annexation agreement.
Okay. So then the other question for us is, how does the north-south water connection affect this development?
I'm sorry,
Brad, how does the north-south water connection affect this development, or does it not have any effect on this whatsoever?
Yeah, it does not. So this would be connected to the system that basically Crown helped fund. So the tank, for example, that's at the high school, that would be the source of storage for this particular development, and then the series of water mains would be connected in. So this is all and would be connected into the central system, if you will.
So it doesn't touch that issue at all?
No. It would not.
And I know we're waiting for the school to figure stuff out, but if the rumor is that this is an elementary school, how are they going to figure this out? Gary Wright less than a mile away and us at the Huntley border.
So I was looking at that because I thought, man, that looks awful close, but I pulled up the map here in Carpentersville, where I work, and if you look, you've got.
You've got a lot more population.
No,
It
but
doesn't have
that's
to
the
do with
point.
distance, it has to do with
The
where the
whole-
kids are coming from.
Yeah.
So between Lakewood and this,
Half of Lakewood goes to Huntley.
No,
Not
not
half.
half.
That's about, well,
one street.
One
third,
street.
maybe 20%.
So, and the other thing you need to keep in mind, and Gary Wright is the largest elementary school in the entire district, and they are at capacity. They have over 850 students at Gary Wright.
And they just built on 91 classroom last year and they were at capacity before that.
So, I mean, and I looked, and in particular, if you look at, like, here's Gulfview, and right up the road in the same subdivision is Meadowdale. It's just,
That being said, last question to you, and then I'm gonna shut up. If the school wasn't building this or working with you to build this, would you be coming to do this development with us? Right now. At this time, right now?
Yes. You know, to be quite candid with you, I started with Crown last October. I have a builder background. In discussing this with the Crown team, I feel very strongly that this is an excellent location within the community, within Hampshire. Again, location, proximity to Route 47, proximity to 90. It's not easy though. I'll be honest with you. You know, again, I want to reiterate, there are only a handful of builders in Chicago. That's an important point. To successfully, do a community like this, it takes strong partnership between a company like us, the village, and the future builders. But yes, this community, the school certainly adds to the community, undoubtedly. But we believe there are very strong merits for the community, beyond the school.
And yeah, I'll add to that a little bit. I will absolutely say the school is driving this, right? You know, and there's another reason for that, and it's an engineering related. As Brad knows, construction costs right now are very expensive, right? Particularly, land development, but also, home building and whatnot. And it's hard. You got to make sure that the market for the lots is at the right point, so that you're not building, the cost of building a lot is greater than what you can sell it for. So, those are analysis, Chris and I've loved this site, since we annexed it in 2015. But, I don't think until now, that cost versus, revenue wasn't there. I think it's getting there. And I think, with this site, the school helps that certainly, but I'm not sure we would be going right now. But I agree with Chris. I think we would certainly be seriously considering it, in the very near future if the school had it. But the school is definitely driving this now.
All right, thank you.
I have one more comment for us. Think about where these people are going to shop and get their gas, and when they leave home, where are they going to spend their money? There's no commercial out here at all.
Sure.
Time out. 1 minute, please. So just think about that for in your head. If you know people that are looking to do something, like now is the time to get some slated land around here for commercial development. Who bought the Weisman farm? The whole thing? Even the corner, the house?
That's what that
Corner and Drazes,
that was gonna be my last question.
Yeah.
above single
The
family.
farmhouse, the Weisman farmhouse is north of their property,
The
right? Did you buy the Weisman?
The Weisman farmhouse is not part of our property. They did retain the farmhouse.
the Weisman still own that, correct?
Correct. Yeah, you can see the little notch, just, in the northwest corner of the school site, going west. That notch is the parcel that the family retained. And, they are doing some farming. There's not a lot of ag left there, but they still own the farm property, the homestead.
Just keep that,
Oh, that's a great point.
because we won't get any, no motor fuel tax, no sales tax.
We would get per capita tax because of increased
Oh.
population.
Or fuel tax.
We get more fuel tax.
Yes, that, I take that back.
But isn't the argument that these people will drive? I mean, isn't it rooftops is whatever. if you're in a-
So,
Hopefully.
Well, yeah.
so there's an axiom in land development, you know, because we do commercial as well, not a lot, mostly residential, but rooftops drive commercial. You need the roof. Commercial doesn't show up until the rooftops are there, so you got to have the rooftops first. I would certainly anticipate, you know, the residents in this neighborhood and Prairie Ridge, as I'm assuming, you know, the residents that are there now in Prairie Ridge will be shopping within Hampshire and in the surrounding community, and hopefully supporting those businesses. This is a bad time to gauge that, obviously, with COVID, but you know, they're gonna be looking for restaurants, they're gonna be looking for stores, they need retail, right? But it starts with the rooftops first. So.
100%. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is no different than Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, just one last thing I know we'll leave on, just that upper corner piece. Was there a reason that the Weismans held on to that piece?
I can't speak to them. First of all, the Weismans, they don't own that. They don't own it all the way to the corner of Route 20 and Big Timber Road. I believe that's the Bezos family. At least it was for a while, and there might even be another property owner there. The Weismans parcel would only be a sliver, basically the northern part of the school site. If you take that straight west, everything south of there and north of our development here is what the Weisman family retained. I believe they retained it for sentimental reasons. I know Herman Weisman, fantastic guy, and Mrs. Weisman have passed on. So now it is their kids are the owners of the property, but I believe it's for sentimental reasons. But I can't speak to that for sure, to be honest.
I think it's between 5 and 10 acres.
Okay.
And one of the kids is going to build on it.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Comments?
Nope.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thank you for the presentation. I know the school district did a search of the area. They looked at two other parcels in the village, 2 other parcels in a neighboring community. So this parcel has been searched on for more than a few months, I believe. Very low. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we're very excited about the school, and I think they are as well. But I would like to express my appreciation for all the questions and comments tonight. That helps us a lot, you know, and gives us, you know, a good understanding of the concerns of the village and gives us a good path forward. So I appreciate all of the comments and questions tonight. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Don't forget Pingree Grove also. Yep.
What?
Goes to school here.
They go to school, you're right, they're gonna carry you.
They'll never expand very
New
quickly.
school, I'm sure they'll look at boundaries.
Oh, 100%.
Oh.
They do that without adding new school.
They just run through that.
We've gone through that like 7 times in the last 5 years.
Mayor, if I could just add one thing, we'll be meeting with Attorney Schuster with EEI Representative Zane Brown in the next couple of weeks to map out specific dates and schedule for the Plan Commission, Zoning Board, probably in the Village Board. So you'll have that probably by the next board meeting. And if there are no other questions, Mr. Mayor, we'll move on to the next item, an ordinance creating a new liquor license in the A2 license category.
Before we get started, you guys are free to go. You don't have to sit and watch it if you don't want to.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Dan, give me a call.
Except Brad, you gotta stay.
Yeah, you don't get off that easy, Brad.
Turn the subs over to the White Sox.
They play the tip.
Mr. Schuster, would you like to introduce this?
Yes, so I'm informed that there was an application to the Liquor Commission for a new establishment in town seeking a Class A2 liquor license. That applicant has submitted what is necessary and I believe is conditionally approved by the Liquor Commission. So it's up to the Board of Trustees now to determine if they want to create a new license, one more liquor license in the village. This one would be in Class A2. It would be for issuance to an establishment at 125 Oak Knoll Drive, and would bring the total number of liquor licenses in the village to 18.
Can I ask a question about that address?
Yeah.
I'm looking at a map, and is it 175 east or is it 175 west?
So I don't know the right address. It's right next to Iron Walk.
Yeah, it's in the strip mall.
Strip mall. 125
So then
west.
it's 125.
No, so this is incorrect.
Because I was looking at 175 and I was, oh, no, I'm not like this.
So the ordinance is
What's
correct.
A2?
Doc, Mr. Schuster for having a supplement in.
Thank you, sir.
What's an H license?
I did not hear that. I'm sorry.
Your,
That's it?
your supplement has the wrong address.
Mr. Esposito,
Is it 125 or 175? Linda, do you know?
125.
Okay, so
Your ordinance?
it's 125 West Oak Knoll Drive, correct?
Yes.
Right.
So the ordinance is correct, okay. Do we need the west in the ordinance or no?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, then that's the only thing that's missing from the ordinance is the west.
On the supplement, it's wrong.
All right, sorry for that.
Any questions, comments?
Have all of the conditions put forth by the liquor commission been met?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Everything's good.
Uh-oh, not with her.
So I'm making sure. I know that there are some things that still have to come in.
Yes, they can.
All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 20-25. An ordinance amending the village liquor regulations to create a new license in the A2 license category in the village. Correcting the address, in paragraph 3 to read as 125 West Oak Knoll Drive.
I'll make your motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Aye.
Mr. Gajeki.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Ms. Klein. Aye. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, we have an ordinance granting a variation. The front yard setback requirements in R2, single-family residential zoning district for the property at 219 Panama Avenue in the village.
I'll be abstaining.
Oh.
Ms. Klein, you'll be excused from voting on this, I take it?
Yes, I will.
I believe the various submittals to the zoning board are included in your package. There are findings of fact and a recommendation from the zoning board following a public hearing. No one appeared to comment or object to the proposal. You can see that the property owner is hoping to improve it a little bit, but that improvement will take away some of the front yard to accommodate a porch with an overhang and some stairs.
Please.
Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I said it during the shed, but I'm gonna say it on this. I have a resident, any resident, pay $500 to have an ordinance or a variance application go through for something small like the front of a house for a stoop or a shed on the side of the yard is absolutely ridiculous.
Or
to charge
anything.
residents that.
Or anything.
Anything.
I could put,
For any reason, for a resident or homeowner to ask for a variance in our zoning board, and for us to charge them $500 to do that is absurd.
well, that's even more money than that because they have to pay for mailers to go out to their neighbors within so many feet. So it's
I'm just talking about the fee, not all the additional.
No, but I'm saying that to the residents,
That would still
$500.
have, I mean, there's still a process you have to follow, but on top of that process, we charge It's ridiculous.
Can you be more specific? Are you concerned about the fee or the process?
No, the fee, the $500.
That could easily be changed. This board could change that anytime.
I think at some in a soon future meeting, I would hope that we take up this for residents. Commercial, I get, but for residential reviews,
It's stupid.
that's
stupid. It's the same thing, it's the same thing, you gotta get a permit to tear your driveway out. And it has to be inspected before you put the blacktop back.
Yeah,
So they're taking off the broken blacktop, they're gonna replace it, but you have to have it inspected. How stupid is that? And if the inspector can't be there today, you're gonna wait till he can show up. That's absurd.
Trustee Kelly, to your point, and yours is a different one, Toby, but I certainly agree with you. There is the expense. We have to have a zoning board meeting. We have to pay the zoning board members. We have to have a court reporter. We have to have a public hearing. Those are all required by our code. So the change would be to, like we did sheds, make certain things permitted so that they're no longer a variance. So if we wanted to put front porches to have in certain areas, we could amend the setback from the street so that it's shorter. It would not require a variance. That would be the right way to do it. In this particular block, there's several other similar porches that have already been done. So we could say that setback in certain areas, we could change the code.
Then we're doing it thing by thing as people apply, right? What I'm talking about is the overall fee. If we can look at it and say that $500 is the cost to the village.
It costs at least that much. It costs at least $500 to do the hearing, to pay the zoning board to meet. To have a co-reporter here, I promise you, it costs, I was here, Josh was here, Attorney Schuster was here. Our costs are a lot more than $500 for this particular.
Then what we need to do is reevaluate the process. Because that's awful. That's awful.
The reality, the only way to do it is.
You had to redo it a second time, didn't you? Because the original mailer you sent out, the date that went out, ended up, the zoning board didn't even plan the meeting for the date that you were told it was going to be planned, which then you wasted postage on the process and had to redo everything for the new date.
Actually, she didn't have to redo that. We made it.
But I mean, the process is broken. If the process costs us $500 for somebody to get a small variance like this or a shed variance or something that's a residential homeowner, because that's what it costs the village, then we need to
The
reach.
challenge is that if our code requires something that requires a variance to vary from the code. So we either have to change the code to allow this use or lower the fees, in which case we would just, the rest of the homeowners, the rest of our community would be paying for the variance, not that particular homeowner.
Right, I don't think at any point it's the cost to the village at all. For someone to come and ask for a variance from code, that is.
I agree.
That's initiated by the person. Now, if the cost is, too much, and we can sort of find a more efficient way to do it, then I'm on board for that, but at no point do I believe that the village should incur.
No, I don't think that's what Trustee Kelly said.
No, I'm not saying, but I'm saying whatever it is, it should just be, I would like it to be net neutral, right? It shouldn't cost the village anything. And if it's an action that's initiated by residents, then they should bear all of those costs. But if we can make that more efficient, 100%. But it shouldn't cost the village.
So who wants to take that on?
I think it'd be a good thing for the zoning.
Planning and zoning.
I would ask that you please think about that.
Josh and I spent a lot of time on the code lately. We're gonna have some recommendations for you to consider too in the next couple of months. It's a very big issue.
Looking forward to it.
You're gonna be busy with this and around development.
Yes, sir.
Good. Any other questions or comments? Right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 20-26, an ordinance granting a variation of the front yard setback requirement in the R2 Single Family Residential Zoning District for the property located at 219 Panama Avenue in the village of Hampshire, also known as the Earl Engel subdivision.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I did learn why it's called Panama Avenue, thanks to.
Yes.
Yes.
So then if you read the book, it's all-
He grew up in Panama.
Yes.
Really?
Are you wearing shoes today, Bonnie? You have shoes on today?
Was I on to that?
Do you have shoes on?
Shoes on. No, in your book, you like to walk bare feet.
Yeah, I prefer bare feet.
All right, any further questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Coe,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Really, you're all gonna do it?
I said yes.
oh, Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Crescenzi,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
Abstain.
motion carries 5-1.
Mr. Mayor, we have an ordinance granting a general variation of the community graphics requirements for certain property to 5 Metrics Drive in the village.
We have the same conversation we just had.
Yes.
You can, but this is for a commercial
No,
property.
no. I agree with that. I understand where we're coming from. The problem that I'm having is every single time that a truck stop or somebody comes in here, we are granting a variance for graphics. So is it that?
We're gonna change the graphic order.
Is that our graphic ordinance is just that bad, that we have to grant a variance every single time?
Agreed.
So I would say that the zoning board echoes your opinion to a person. And what we told the zoning board is that Josh and I would come back to them with a recommendation to change the sign ordinance so that these at the trucks, we already do have a special district zoning for truck stops. But in some cases, some of these you just can't anticipate. They're more signage than square footage. We call it area signs.
Yeah.
Directional signs, those things. But I would say particularly the height, we've sort of set a standard now at height, and we can change the ordinance so that variance is not required.
And that's all, that's my comment. That we had to do it for Lucky's over here. For his sign on,
Actually, be more specific, the zoning board said the village board should really change this, so we don't have to do this all the time.
They did say that.
That's exactly what they said twice now.
but shouldn't it come from them?
It will come from that originally.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Let's be honest, it's gonna come from Jay, who's gonna write it, have Mark look at it, and then they're just gonna pass it through to us.
I'm not sure about the mark part, but you're right on the rest of it.
So can you, there's a lot of signage in this request. Is all of the images we're seeing, the loves, the side of the truck, is all of that included in this request?
Yes, and let me speak a little bit to what the zoning board did. They looked at this very similarly to the ordinance that was recently passed. And there's nothing in here that's larger square footage. The variances are no greater than any of the other truck stops that we've already done. The number of signs is square footage, total signage, and the heights.
They're all the same.
These are all within the same general parameters, yes. They're not identical because the variances are slightly different in each case. We're not, for example, we're not exceeding any of the current heights that we have with the other signs. There's no more square footage. The largest sign at Love's is a lot larger than anything in truck. So this is not an unusual variance.
Confusing part is that every time that anybody wants to put a sign up out there, they have to come in front of us to get approved. That's the hard part.
To be fair, these are very complex signage. There's a lot of signage in these areas, and I don't think the village really wants to just punt and not be aware of what's going on.
No, and I agree with that, except for the fact that it's already cost, well, what does it cost for us to have the zoning board meeting and all that other stuff? We've already spent $500. When if we change the language, we might not have to spend $500 every time, is what I'm getting at. No, I understand that.
That's what we plan to do.
So I'm confused on one of these on page, or sorry, project, at Love's panel sign. Is that a new sign, or what part of that sign is the variance request for?
It's the panel on the existing Love sign. They wanted it.
So like the two below the speed
So you know
code?
what's going on. I'm sorry?
The two below the speed code?
Yes, one of them. I can get one, and I think David Freight has the other.
They're just,
That doesn't require a variance.
no, that doesn't require, they presented their whole sign package.
Yeah. They just wanted to include it.
That's why I asked, is every sign in this a new sign that we were approving? Because I'm looking at pictures of the signs, I'm like, I thought Love's already had a sign, why did we do this in construction?
No, they did.
Okay, that's where I was getting.
Everybody was really mad.
I'm like,
Don't you remember when they turned that sign on for the first time, they got real mad?
no, I wasn't on the board when Love's got approved.
Lucky you.
He was the one getting mad at us.
Yeah, I was the one that sat over there.
Yeah.
Transportation tax.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, just quick, illuminated pylon -E. That's got 251 square footage. That's not, I mean, I think that was the only one that really jumped out at me as being significantly larger than the ordinance. Do we have other signs of that
It is
size?
larger, but the photo sign is 675. So it's
I
not.
think I wanted to know.
You typically vote no on these ordinances.
Okay, somebody younger than me, how tall is that love sign? Can you read on that picture? How tall is the love?
80.
80 feet, and yours is gonna be 60 feet.
Right.
Any further questions or comments?
Where is the Freightliner sign going? The Freightliner Western Star E?
It's on the entrance.
The front entrance?
Take a look. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry, let me zoom in. Oh, so it's, well, that's not really an entrance, that's the off ramp, isn't it? Wait,
No, there's two pole signs. The first is a very large 60-footer that's going near Interstate 90. The second pole sign is near the entrance off of.
So the E sign is gonna be right against 90, right?
That is the highway sign.
And that's gonna be another lighting one that you're gonna see from across the road.
That's what I just. They chose to live next to a truck stop.
I get that. I get that.
Well, not everybody. As long as, I guess, I don't know how long you live.
Okay,
Truck stop is there
let me
before the
rephrase it. They chose to live next to an exit.
I put those
on a
subdivisions
major interstate.
The truck stop was there, right?
The truck stop was there, but they didn't have half the,
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot changed.
yeah.
Things change, so.
Yeah.
You get what you get, you live next to a.
I'm okay with all of it. I don't like.
Now, unfortunately, E is what prompts you to stop on the highway when you got down.
Yes, and that's very, very much so needed.
I mean, I don't mean to disagree with you.
No, it's fine.
But when you're driving something that big, you need that much warning and be able to see it so that you know, okay, I can get off here and get service.
Get service, get in, get taken care of, make sure that you're safe, you're off the road. It's a very much needed.
In 2020, I mean.
Yes,
Yeah,
especially with a bunch of the old people that drive RVs like my
Things
parents.
like that really.
Hey, it's a fact.
We said that.
Hey, it'll be on camera. It's a fact. My dad don't see it on the road, he doesn't stop because he doesn't touch his cell phone because he could lose his CDL.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'm sorry. It's what
I
it is.
use my phone on the road all the time.
Yeah, but you're on a tractor.
You're not driving, you're not driving anything.
You're also not driving on the road.
If I could just briefly, could you introduce yourself? The general manager of Truck Country's here, let you know.
Hopefully you guys can all come in and we'd love to have you guys down for any type of tour, anything that we can do to make it more easy for you guys and quite honestly, we're hoping to just keep growing. We have 60 employees right now. We're hoping to have 100 here in the next 3 months. Just looking to keep growing and keep providing for Hampshire. So anything that we can do for you guys, let us know, please.
The snowplow that we ordered from them is in, it's being outfitted now.
So you have 2 from us and your third's coming in, so we do appreciate that as well. We can't wait to.
And they have the best servers for Coon Creek. That was the best we've ever had.
All right, thanks, guys. We're looking forward to it again next year.
Yeah, those two snowplows, let's just say they didn't build it. Otherwise, that's a bad thing.
No, we did not. We only outfit the chassis that was here on time.
Yeah.
I will take you up on your offer to come in when this is all done. I'm gonna bring my 3-year-old son. Good luck getting him to leave.
No, I got a 3.5-year-old, so anytime, guys, bring your kids. We love it.
Thank you.
We love the show and
That's all I can do here.
I do have one question, like a serious question on that E. Why was that not done as part of the initial construction of the project, knowing that it's still needed for that?
My guess is that Truck Country's paying.
I honestly can't answer that.
yeah, I wasn't
I wasn't involved in the development of the property.
Yeah.
They developed the land, they didn't develop the stores, so if the Truck Country wants it, they're gonna buy it. Put it in. I mean, it's no different than like Love's.
Typically in the industry, I represent the sign company, by the way, and typically in the industry, the signs are kind of an afterthought to get done after the property is developed. Even if a, big contractor like Leopardo builds a big, building space, the signs usually come later. They're not included in the original bid part of the building.
What was
They were like one of the anchors, if you will, like we approved the development because Love's was coming in, that was one of the big drivers of it. So we approved the development and then.
Correct.
Correct.
Right.
It was Love's first.
Love first.
All right.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 20-57, an ordinance granting a general variation of the community graphics requirements for certain properties located at 205 Metro Drive Village, otherwise known as Truck Country Development.
So, second.
Any question or comment?
On the motion itself, the vote is all yes or all no, it's not, we can't separate out the yes, because it's no on this.
All yes or all? Any further questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
No.
Ms. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Krajewski?
No.
Motion passed 4-2.
Mr. Mayor, we have a motion to approve the appointment of Tim Frasca to the Business Development Commission.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And this is for a 3-year term.
3-year. Any questions, comments?
She voted yesterday, I saw. How does that work if we vote no?
About to go back and amend the vote. How should we vote on something not being on it?
Not everybody knows who is correct.
Yep. Very
All
nice.
right, then, I will entertain a motion to appoint Karen Traska on the business, or 3-year term on the Business Development Commission.
So moved.
Okay.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Krajewski?
Yes.
Cole?
Yeah,
Ms.
yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask Jeff once again, we're starting to develop monthly reports in all the departments. The building department is really the only one. I should say also the police department has done a nice job of developing a monthly report. We will be starting to have regular department reports, maybe not at every meeting, but departments. But this is the second time that we've seen the department, building department monthly report. Josh is refining a little bit since the last time we met, so I'll turn it over to Josh for a few minutes.
Yeah, so one big change is that I was able to use MSI reports and some Excel wizardry to figure out turnaround times on permits, which is the most important piece, one of the most important pieces of information in my mind. So some of the highlights there are bullet pointed. Permit activity decreased a lot since the last couple of months. Don't have a lot of historical data, so I don't know what that means, but presumably a lot of people moved COVID and they started doing home runs. Fences are down, patios are down, driveways are down, but again, I'm not really sure what that means.
It was real hot.
Yeah. Some of the charts here, you can ask the questions as I go along. Just a chart that shows the number of permits applied for by type. Fences have been the most common for the most part. Patios, roofs, driveways, kind of standard stuff. Yeah. Average turnaround time is the next chart there. I just put solar in there. That's not a super common permit, but I put it in there just to show how long some permits can take. Like solar on pools, things like that. They can take early times because there can be a lot of back and forth with BNF, a lot of inspections. And also, I do want to note that these turnaround times say something about BNF, but they also say things about the applicants. Because quite often we'll have an applicant not include their approval letters in HOA, and then it takes them a week to get that to BNF. So that really can drive things up. So these could all be a lot lower probably, but applications are not perfect by any means when they come in. And we're refining the process to make it easier, to make it more apparent, all the stuff that you need, but some people just don't follow processes.
That was my next question. Is there any trend that you're noticing as far as the resident side, they sign up process?
I can say, let's see, we launched the online permit application late May, I believe. Or would it have been late April, anyway. The number of questions about the online application have dropped off, at least like messages on the phone back there. So it's the small changes that we continue to make, like I've put little notes on the application, refer to here if you don't know what you're doing. If you don't know your zoning, here's the zoning map link. So people are getting to use it well, a lot less questions coming in. And I think people are using it a lot more. Every now and then there'll be a person that just refuses to do it online. But that's fine.
I didn't do mine.
I didn't either, but it wasn't around when I did.
Let's see. This chart up top is construction value so far this fiscal year. May was a lot because there's a lot of, I believe, new residentials. It costs a lot of money, or not cost a lot of money, but we're highly valued. And then the second chart here, it's a little wonky. It's the monthly fees that we've collected versus our expenses to BNF. July was fine, but as I said in the supplement, that we expect that to kind of correct next month and have more expenses. Is it because of the extra week? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't pay them until the board approves it, right? So the extra week in July causes it to be kind of weird. And then this is kind of the revenue so far this fiscal year. Again, the array box is really big because of the same reason. So any questions about the performance, the turnaround times, the values?
Now, Mr. Mayor, that's the end of our village manager's report tonight.
Thank you, John.
Nice job. Both of you. The vote of you.
Both of you. Let's see, public work.
No report. They go to some sites, you could probably tell me the sites better if they want to know. The flared end section, it's the flared end section is a big concrete thing that looks like that, and the water comes out of the sewer pipes and goes through. They got a bid to clean those out, and it was like 17 grand. And they went over and rented a machine for $250 and did it.
What's that machine called?
What?
Well, that was a great one. The other one was that little walk behind, or you get on, it's a little bobcat you ride. Or you don't even, there's no seat, you stand on it.
Oh, it's
And they got it in there and they cleaned everything out. So the Public Works, you've got a great team. Great team. Younger guys, they're gung ho. They all get along. They listen. They all come up with new ideas.
What we do next week is Dave's on vacation for a whole week. So
Yeah.
he's finally moving.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Yeah, somebody needs it.
Mark, one of you guys is making one of the if you could mute your microphones, please.
Mark. Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you.
We got another truck. I don't know if it's here yet.
It's being outfitted now. That's what we just mentioned earlier. Thank you. And thanks for your recommendations on those rental equipment. That's been very helpful.
That's all.
Good job, Bill. Business Development Commission.
Not much with the roast garden. Hampshire's very own went out today, which I thought Jeannie, just a shout out to Jeannie Mayer. I think she does a fantastic job on that. Also, I attended the Chamber golf outing today, which was, I thought, well done, put together. Probably would have been better if I had read the invitation properly and been there at noon.
You got there at time.
There's still lunch though.
There's still lunch, but no, I did. Other than that, no, I mean, we had a pretty light week.
Two-stroke penalty or?
Is well, if I would have had more my golf game, it would have been even worse.
And so also Mike, as he had a long drive, he got his little trophy, but I will say that Ryan, who was walking next to me, hit the back wall at 215 on a fly. The only person I saw all day that did that.
Yeah.
So, but of course, with the scoring system, it didn't even register as a point. When everybody else gets 215 points for it, he got zero.
Zero.
It did not register, but yeah.
Thank you.
So congratulations to all who were there. We had a great showing from Century 21.
Yep.
EI sponsored one of the holes up there. It was,
I didn't go.
If you've ever been to Top Golf, I mean, it was my first time.
Oh, it's
It's
a
an
cool
impressive
place.
facility. It is, it's a good time.
Yeah, Jeannie did a great job. So I think she and her whole team, because I know a lot of people helped them over, but it was really well put together. And Jeannie's planning on some things that I think we're going to see here soon for the next season. But other than that, it was a light meeting last night, and we'll look forward to obviously our next meeting, which is the second Wednesday of September. But I've got nothing else.
Finance has an item.
You have two items. Okay, so you have the accounts payable in front of you. We'll start with the reimbursements first. So we have some reimbursements totaling $100 to be paid on or before August 26, 2020. Any questions?
Yes, I can do that. I will entertain a motion to approve the first accounts payable in the amount of $100.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Not everyone.
No.
Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Klein.
Aye.
Mr. Groves.
Aye.
Mr. Jackie.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Reed.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
And then our regular accounts payable, $133,552.42 to be paid on or before August 26, 2020. Questions?
Yes. Page 3,
Page 3, yes, sir.
Hack Company Pros Replacement Digester.
It's for the wastewater treatment.
Oh, okay. I figured, okay.
Any other questions? I actually have a question.
It's tiny.
I do have a question. The appraisal retainer,
Yes.
what is that for?
Okay.
We are
Page
having,
4.
we are having appraisal done of the Cook Street, street garage.
Oh,
And so, yep.
We have a party interested in buying, and we want official appraisal as opposed to the informational appraisal we received. Teresa.
retainer's $850.
That's approximately half what the appraisal. cost.
That's the drive-by appraisal.
They're coming on Wednesday.
That's very standard. If it's $1,600 that's very standard.
Any other questions?
Energy Services, I'm assuming is that.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
Page 6, Mid-American Energy Service, that electric or something?
It is,
It
yep.
is. Is that always been?
We did several recently change.
The names?
Yeah.
What pages? She has one more.
Page 10.
The past due notices,
Yep, so those are our utility bills. Second notices to
Oh,
the
got it.
residents.
water bills.
Yep,
Got it.
exactly.
We're not past.
We're not.
We're not past due.
No, it's 31. Water bill.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
any more questions?
Page 10, what is Sinagro Technologies?
They come and haul off the sludge that's generated at the wastewater treatment.
Be the pro.
You'll see it in the farm field out there.
Yep.
Any more questions? Can you make a motion, sir?
Sure. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve accounts payable in the amount of $133,552.42.
So moved.
Question or comment? Roll call, please.
Mr. Reed.
Aye.
Mr. Jackie.
Aye.
Mr. Groves.
Aye.
Ms. Klein.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
I have nothing further.
Nothing further. Public relations.
Just a few things. As we talked at the last meeting, we approved the branding contract. Jay and Josh had a meeting, I think, today with A5. We're gonna set a PR meeting for the last week of August or the first week of September, right? Just to talk about this. That's what your email was about. So we have a couple of days that would be good. Let me know. We'll get that on the book so that we can kind of go through our strategy, because I know they want to meet at the BDC meeting on the 9th.
Right, September.
Yes.
Trustee Reed, could I add just one thing to that point?
No. Yes.
Four of you are on either the BDC or the Public Relations Committee. For the mayor and the other two trustees that are not, A5 will be asking to meet with you privately to get your input when it comes to personality of the village, the feel of the village, just some general input. So this first round of meetings will be input from all of our boards and commissions related to this, and then what the entire village board, rather than do it at this meeting, they want a more personal time. So it'll either be one-on-one, or maybe two of you at a time. So the three of you that are not on the BDC or the architect. Thank you.
Other than that, fill out your census.
Census.
Done.
Did you guys like publicize anything yet?
We've got a flyer that's going out in the next water bill. I don't know where we are with the signs that we were gonna put at the corners. Yes, and then, I mean.
Our drop dead banners. No, we were gonna put, the lime green banners.
Yeah,
Change the color to change your.
My contact with the banners got sick, but he's back in business now, so he'll be helping me out with that.
And then, we're gonna be doing a amped up strategy. We're gonna rely on our marketing guy to help us with that. He doesn't know yet.
And I think the census, just in case anybody reads this, what's the census due date?
It's September 30th.
Is it the 30th?
Okay, that's it.
Let's push.
Yeah. We need it.
Any further, sir?
I don't think so.
Planning and zoning,
No report.
public safety.
The only thing I got is the kudos to the police department, in the parks at, Bruce Ream and at Siler. We found, information that kind of worried us, so it was turned over to the police department, and, they investigated it, and it was all taken care of that afternoon. So, because it was in the parks, they put it on top priority. So we thank the police department for doing that, and I see him cruising around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, so.
What are you doing up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning? He's coming home.
I need sleeping medicine. But, so they're, everything's going good.
Okay, fabulous. Field and trail.
No report. Unless
What?
somebody has something.
The reason, did you report last that they blacktopped
Yes,
the comment deal? It's all done?
all done. Looks great.
Oh, I just rode my bike on that yesterday.
He wasn't here last time either. We recorded.
That's right.
It was,
We
We recorded for you last
recorded.
time.
Field and Trails has a succession list of reporters. So
That's right.
don't worry, we took care of it last
And I'm
time.
grateful for that.
Fabulous.
And they did not touch your $8,000 budget.
Yes, I still have it.
Village services.
So I'm gonna have a meeting with Lawn and Waste Management next week. I gotta get a time together because he started sending a report of recycling violators. So that makes me wonder if they started checking and tagging again, which they haven't done for months. So I gotta figure out if we're actually kickstarting that program again.
Was it for our village?
Is it my, am I on the list?
It was like 29 people this last time.
Am I on the list?
I don't know. What's an
Did you get
address?
tagged?
I'm sure.
Can't you,
There's a house on, what's your address on Panama?
319.
It's the one with the nice
330
porch.
pounds of empty wine bottles.
That's right.
So no, so I'm gonna check to see if they're doing the same for Linda and the front office are getting a lot of phone calls.
That's right.
I said, I'm gonna check to see if they're redoing the tagging again before you all start getting a lot of phone calls.
Okay.
Because for them to have a list, means somebody's checking it. I watch recycling with my son and they don't get out of the truck. So
They don't get out the truck on Panama either, so.
the only other thing I have is I have been working with a resident, Leslie Kriegel, who lives right near the school.
Yep.
And our services partners in the telecommunication industry are telling her that she doesn't have any access to anything at her location. Which I find hard to believe. She's right on State Street. And so
Access to what?
So she's tried to get high-speed internet from MediaCom. MediaCom says they don't service her address, but they service every house and school around her. So I've got to call them to figure out, they haven't been the most responsive. In fact, they don't really care once the state went to franchising, so we're working on it. Speaking of that, the park district also reached out to find out if we had part of the original agreement with Comcast that the park district would be included in some of the internet build out that was done. I told them I had no clue. But that there are other options in that area and they're looking at other viable options. They did ask and send a note wondering about the tower at Tuscany.
The water tower.
The water tower, if we know who, and I haven't looked through the contracts, they're asking if we know who's renting from it or if there's a possibility of us, the park district, working together with a satellite internet vendor who would need to put a repeater on the tower, provide satellite internet in the town. Because right now, the closest they get to town is the Dunlin farm. Because of the line of sight, they can't get it into here, I guess, and it offers 200 meg speeds over satellite, which I'll believe it when I see it. It is. It's way fast, especially for satellite stuff. So that's something we may need to talk about with water tower allocation. My comment to the park district was, nothing is free. So we'll see what's going on, but I'll loop back into the meeting or we have a little bit more to go on for that.
I think it's, I don't know, but I think it's important to realize kind of what we're going through right now with all these kids being at home and being on the internet. We're all being on.
Brad would know who's on Tuscany, maybe.
Yeah,
If we just get that clean.
I do want to state, I agree with you, but I have also worked with that park board to members of that park board to let them know there are other options in town that offer business class, high-speed internet, and they are choosing which way to go, which is right on this conference.
Right, no, I'm saying in general. I mean, it's like high-speed internet is gonna come up again and again and again right now. Because there are some families that have, 4 or 5 kids at home, synchronous learning. I know everybody's sick and tired of hearing the synchronous versus asynchronous versus synchronous. You've got kids for every period of every day on a computer, video chatting with their class. That's a lot of bandwidth that's needed. And there's a lot of families now that are really starting to get it because when we went remote in March, it was mostly, for the most part, it was asynchronous. So that's like they post the lessons and then they do things one-on-one or whatever. This is, you have your first period class and you are in class with you and 30 people.
This is synchronous.
Yeah. I mean, and so there's a lot of families that are struggling, right? Not necessarily just in Hampshire, but in our area, we're trying to find the bandwidth that they need to get this account.
And I'd love to be able to say we can switch it on, but I've had conversations with the Comcast government rep, and it comes down to their business. There has to be a financial reason for them to spend on the infrastructure. That we're not going to cover it for them to bring that type of cable. They did the business area, $1 million. They did it because they'll make that back in private clouds and doing business class internet. We have to be able to make the case and prove the statement that it is in their financial well-being to also build out throughout town because it would require a lot of infrastructure on their side. We have talked about when the new developments go on 72 and commercial that it then starts to make sense that they just connect those two through the residential community. But right now, except for new subdivisions, there is zero interest from telecom companies to improve infrastructure of telecommunications in the established areas of Hampshire.
Aaron, when you talk about the state controlling franchise agreements, isn't that a franchise agreement issue?
It is also a franchise agreement. We have zero power when it comes to media telecommunications. All of that lies within the state. That passed in a couple of years, not that long ago. It was like
3 years ago, I think.
2016, I think, or 2015. And the state took control. So for example, MediaCom just needs to call their rep at the state and say, we're gonna put internet in Hampshire. They never have to talk to the village. They don't have to get any rights from the village. They just call the state, says, yep, we'll add you to the General Assembly. They pass it. We have zero power. We have zero recourse. They have no responsibility to us. And since that's passed, I get zero comms from anybody in any of the telecom. They're like, yeah, our conversations aren't with you, we talk to the state about it. So we're working through it.
I will say that Comcast has been really great when it comes to commercial.
Yes,
We
the
have
commercial, they've done a phenomenal job.
And regarding the park district, there's no special deals for Village Hall or anybody else, but I have quoted the police department, it's installed here. We looked at the fiber optic, but it was $770 a month. This building, paying about $160 for the high-speed Comcast,
Yeah,
which is doing great.
They were gonna have to, the hard part for the park district that they're running into is they are right on that border of old development and new subdivision, and both communities and their buildings. So they're gonna have to have trench work and digging done either way, and extensions put in, which Comcast was they estimated somewhere around $25,000 to $30,000 for the infrastructure.
There you go.
Run the
I'll be
line.
driving the same one for 20
So you're getting an answer. I do have
trucks.
for the commercial guy.
Yeah, they've gotten the answers for Comcast, they don't like them. And I've told them to talk to the MediaCom person, because that's the old part of town that goes to that building. So they've got some tough decisions, but one of the options that is a lot lower cost than paying for directional boring and running infrastructure is we can work with the satellite company to get a repeater on there, that any resident within town could theoretically have high-speed internet through this internet. Company. But I want to do some due diligence on this company first, because
the guy they were talking to, said that they can put it on the water tower with a magnet. No drilling, no nothing, they just go up there and.
yeah, it's just a reflection repeater. But I think there's a lot more that needs to be figured out. We have to make sure that we do the right thing, because we have T-Mobile pays for space, Verizon pays for space, so you can't just have somebody get free space and then have existing contracts with people that could lead to bad relationships. That's all I got to say about any of that.
All right.
If I could add one thing, it's not really a good place for this on the agenda, but I did mention this to Jeff, but I was gonna bring it up. We've not been doing any water shutoffs during the pandemic. Not official board action, but it was discussed here at the board several times. We now have 213 accounts that are past due, a total of almost $60,000. We have about 10 accounts that are over $1,000 at this point. The larger accounts are the people that have had problems in the past that are just accumulating. I am concerned that some people get in far enough that they probably won't be able to get out, and the board I may be asking the board to do something with a few of those bills. But we have not put door hangers out. We have 213 that go out this week, but those are shut up notices, official shut up notices, and we don't have any plans to shut them off, so I'm not going to send them out. I just think you should all be aware that we are accumulating a pretty large debt there. And of those, a lot of them are regulars. There are some businesses now that are starting to not pay their bill. But there are some that are, I believe, are just not probably paying it because they don't have to.
Yeah.
And then when they figure that out, they won't. So I just think you should be aware of that. I'll continue to report to you, and if you want to change that decision at any point, we can. There's no mandate. There's no governor's instructions or any federal orders that we can't shut off water.
Is there an end? Do you think there's an end?
Honestly, I don't see an end in sight right now to the pandemic. That's what we need. It's a question of how much our residents are impacted financially. I really have no way of knowing that. I don't know that any of you do. We see some of our businesses applying for loans, but we don't really know anything about unemployment or people are hurting in the community. But I will say that we are seeing a significant number of people now not paying their water bills. So unless you say otherwise, the policy is not to shut off, not to do the door hangers. We send out our own people to do 213 door hangers and then not follow up in 5 days and really shut off. So I just want you to be aware of it. We don't have to discuss it now, but if you have any thoughts, share them with me privately, or we can discuss it in more detail another time. Thank you.
I was gonna say, one of the problems with the way that we do the water here, I think, for landlords, is that tenants might be in that situation, and then when they move out, that bill just gets shoved over to the landlord. Is there any opportunity to, you probably don't know that, do you?
This is something that I care a lot about. and I would like to have a further discussion on that because.
I know as a landlord,
No,
it's a problem. I've gotten burned a few times.
Yeah, and honestly, in fact, I just had this discussion with Jeff this week. I've been, sorry, that's an appropriate word to use, been really chewed out by some landlords who want us to call them and say, your tenant is in arrears. That's not our job. There was a gentleman who spoke here about having an agreement that our water billing clerk would call him at some point, and that doesn't happen. We don't do that. In my opinion, the landlord should make their own arrangements. If the landlord has a problem collecting with their tenant not paying water bill, then I had 2 leases in Baltimore where I paid my water bill to my landlord and they paid the bill.
Sure. No,
So there's plenty of ways the landlords can manage that, I think, and I really don't think that, in some cases now we have both names on the water bill, which is very confusing for us. The owner will come in and say, shut the water off, but we're not going to shut the water off for a tenant. And we have one particular landlord in town who's rather infamous, I think, and doesn't really care about the tenant, just wants the water shut off at all costs. So, I don't really think the village is in the business of managing property, or should we be? But there are plenty of ways that a landlord can protect themselves with their leases. I know I'm speaking to an expert on that, but that's my experience.
Yes.
Chad, I'd ask, I think it's absolutely something we need to have as an official discussion and some type of action around. When you have it added to the agenda, can you come with a proposal for a application or a program that somebody who is in this bad situation, whatever, bad being their past due, I don't know what their personal situation, can apply to the village for a potential like a forgiveness, a hardship forgiveness that would say, up to this point, you're forgiven, but forward, you got to stay current. Or, to kind of clean somebody's slate, to your point that maybe is so far back that they just can't get out of it, right? Sometimes people get into holes that are so bad that because I can't get out, why the hell do I care, right? So some type of consideration, what would that look like? Is it something we could even do? Is it something we should even do, right? What's that right thing? And I guess the other part of that is, could we find out from the state without, not the details, but totals of addresses within our municipality that have filed for unemployment without knowing the address of the person? We shouldn't get individual information, but is there any kind of, because they run percentage unemployment, total applications, and the state has that information.
They won't give you nothing.
As a
Like,
municipality,
you can't even contact IDES right now. As an employer, I've had to recently try to contact them a few different times. And you leave your number and they'll call you between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and they probably call tonight because I'm away from my cell phone. But I've been waiting for over a week for a call back. You cannot get a hold of them.
State government, frankly, is not functioning right now.
It's not.
Could we send something out, a reminder notice, or how many people is it?
We did send out a reminder notice to all of them.
Or
the next step is we do a door hanger that says you'll be shut off in 5 days. But since we're not going to shut off, I don't want to do the door.
Right, but could we send something?
So I sent a letter to the people from the last billing cycle.
Pay $50.
Can't remember exactly what the quantity was. I can give you that information, but it told them, asked them to please call the village in advance. We were going to begin our normal procedures, if you will, with respect to shut-offs, and then we're not going to do it, but suggesting that they call us because we do enter into payment arrangements with people on a regular basis. And so, we're trying to work with people to get them, okay?
Has anybody responded?
Yeah.
Good.
We have had, in fact, from our 213, we had a $400 payment from somebody online recently. And so, yeah, people are making progress, but the people that Jay spoke about that are regulars do know our system as far as, when the door hanger goes out or when Brett's out, like shutting somebody else
So
out.
they could be cheating and we wouldn't know it.
Well, the term regular, I prefer to just say the people that have financial issues. And I met with a couple of individually. These are people that have real financial issues. And so I have a lot of concern and compassion for them. There may be people that are gaming us, but we know who they are for the most part. And there's a few new names on there that you would recognize probably. a couple businesses that we all know are hurting anyway. So I think everybody's is an individual case. I do think we should consider, as Trustee Kelly suggested, some last resort possibility. Because I think we're seeing the regulars, so to speak, getting deeper in the hole. And now they're three cycles behind, and they haven't entered into a payment arrangement. And typically we get into a payment arrangement, and then they get almost caught up, and then they start just behind. So it's hard. We don't have a lot of poverty in this community, but this is the kind of thing that we do have to do.
On that $400 payment, I don't know who it is or their situation. I'm not going to make an assumption, but there are some people that are just truly honest, and they just were in a bad situation. And if that means, like, if they see that we're going to shut something off and they make a decision not to pay another bill or not to go get groceries or do whatever they've got to do for them because they're afraid that they won't have running water in their house, we can't be those people either, right? No. That's why I'm saying we got to figure out something like having compassion for people and giving them the opportunity. But at some point, we also have to recognize that, I mean, it's starting to hit closer to home, I think, with people. 200, what's our average? 20? People that are usually.
Oh,
no, that get to a point where we would have a discussion. 20 to 40 people.
A couple hundred.
Well, no, we're at 200 something right now.
It's about the same, honestly. The quantity is about the same.
So is it just
It's the dollar amount is a little bit higher, and there are people that are longer past due.
I have a question. Do you think that we could have some kind of idea of a program by the next board?
Sure, we can bring something to you.
So here's my question. 5 days prior to our board, or 4 days prior to our board, can the hangers go out and go on people's door? And then us as a board adopt the program that night? Meaning that we wouldn't shut people's water off because it was a board decision, but that would also implore people to pay their bill if they can. Because you do say that there are some people that do this.
Well, we can put the hangers out now. I just thought it was kind of a waste of time.
No, what I'm getting at is, this is more of a scare tactic than anything else. I'm saying 4 days before our board meeting, so that Monday, you say your water is going to be shut off on Friday. On Thursday, we vote our program in, and then next, the water shut offs that were planned.
But they would know it.
I'm not sure what we accomplished by
Yeah.
If you want to do the door hangers, we can do them right now. We'll get.
I'm trying to be compassionate, right? Because I understand that people fall on hard times, but you also know that some people are taking advantage of the system. And so what I was trying to figure out a way, like, we've sent the letters out, we try to be nice about it, right? And how do you get those people that are truly taking advantage of the situation to pay the bill, to weed out the people that are having the issues without targeting?
There's no way you ever can.
No, I think that's the problem with, so often when in government, we're trying to chase out the cheaters. We hurt the people that are actually in the program.
Right.
I get what you're saying is, unfortunately, it's one of those throw the baby out with the bathwater. It comes with the territory.
Yeah,
There's no, I mean, you're gonna have people like in the system.
I'd rather pay the money that we would have paid somebody to go and hang doors, to pay for postage, to send a letter saying, we know you could be on hard times right now, you're behind, here's the board met, and here's a program and application, whatever it may be. Here's information to help you either get right or an opportunity to lighten some stress.
There are programs that can help people, and we do make referrals all the time. We send them to the township that makes referrals to Salvation Army in Elgin. The St. Charles Romero,
St. Vincent.
Thank you, St. Vincent de Paul Society assists with a lot of utility payments as well.
That's how we do it.
Does the state have any kind of a
Lazarus
program?
House
But
in St.
some of
Charles does that as well.
Some of these people fall through every one of those cracks. They're not eligible for any of those programs. And we're telling that people.
Yep.
I think it's because if you're not working, you're not eligible.
Correct.
And the people that are not working are the ones that are hurting most. So I think what we need to do is a financial-based system. I may ask for a third party to administer it so they can give us the financial qualifications of what would be required. Maybe even one of these organizations, that not-for-profits, can help us administer something. We'll look into something and bring it back. In the meantime, Lori and her team are actively trying to collect, there's no question about that, and they are making arrangements. I just wanted you to be aware that the numbers are growing, the dollar amount's growing larger than I think probably ever been.
Do we have a ballpark? What the numbers are?
It's $60,000, 213 different bills.
Never 200.
And only about 10 of them are over $1,000. So it's not enormous, but $60,000 to this community is a lot of money. Okay, we will continue to be diligent to come back to something.
Any other business or other announcements before we adjourn?
You're still serving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't hear, I just.
I said I'm glad to see you're still serving.
Yes, I have not resigned yet, but bring that up, there's, but
I'd say that.
as you probably saw some emails earlier this week, from one of our fine residents, Mr. Jeff Meslinski. He did a FOIA request last week, the village answered it this week regarding, printing that Alpha supplies to the village. Everybody should have got my email response back to Mr. Meslinski's questions yesterday. But I'm going to officially, at Mr. Meslinski's request, enter in his email question in my response back to all of you, word for word, the email they sent, because I don't want to ad lib anything, because that would come back and Mr. Meslinski would like it entered into the record. So the email, this is part of the email that I sent. And we'll see what the next chapter brings on that. He did email 2 questions over late yesterday afternoon, requesting information that the village has on printing that Alpha Graphics would have done from 2000, 2005. I have no record of that because I was not a board member from 2000 to 2005. Alpha Graphics, I don't even know if they existed in that time period. And then what kind of bidding process would have been done by the village? Again, I was not part of the village back 2000, 2005. I'm sure there'll be more questions. Mr. Meslinski, and I will answer them as needed. That's that. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, no, I was just gonna make it.
Nothing else? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, we already made it. And
Second.
Brian seconded.
Roll call vote.
Oh, God.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Klein.
Aye.
Mr. Coe.
Aye.
No, you're staying until 4 o'clock.
Mr. Rejected.
Every day.
Every day.
Mr. Reed.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson. Motion passed 6-0.
Enjoy